When you can't find the book you want to read, it's a sign you need to write it. Find the inspiration you need to get started in today's episode of the Journey to KidLit podcast, number 16. Welcome to the Journey to KidLit podcast. I'm your host, Brooke Van Sickle, and each week on the show, we'll discuss what it takes to write, publish, and market your kids' book. Let's get started. This episode is brought to you by the Ultimate Writing Binder, the #1 resource all children's book writers need to go from idea to finished kids' book. To learn more, visit journeytokidlit.com/ultimate writing binder. Hey there, and welcome to another episode of the Journey to KidLit podcast. I'm your host, Brooke Van Sickle, and today I'm hoping to inspire you to start working on that book you've been thinking about. Recently, I sat down and talked with author Delanda Coleman about her book titled More Than a Princess. You see, whenever I see any story about a girl being anything but quiet and dainty, I'm a little interested. And in Delanda's case, it's no different. Her book is about a little girl who is going for science and math. It's a very STEM-focused book. And obviously, it says it all in the title. She's more than just a princess. Here's what Delanda had to say about why she chose to write this book.
To be honest, I've wanted to be an author for a super long time. You know, every year when I did my resolutions and then when I transitioned into vision boarding, I would write down author. Write a book. But it wasn't until my daughter was born 7 years ago. And when she started coming into herself and she started discovering princesses that, I was a little miffed. She wanted to be a princess and I would buy books for her. And the books that had princesses as the main character would teach concepts that are important. So being polite, being dainty, being pretty, being nice, and of course, dressing up. And those are great qualities, but I raised a maverick, I knew that I am raising someone who's going to be so much more than that. And so I would go to the bookstore looking for books, and I would not really find books that really kind of expanded beyond that. And in my day job, I am in product marketing at a technology company. At the time I worked for Microsoft, one of the largest software companies in the world. So I was inundated or surrounded by these really smart and powerful women. But when I went to the bookstore, I couldn't find books that had strong female characters, and especially not ones of color. And so marrying that little little passion that was sitting in the back of my head, but I really didn't do anything with it, I decided to write a book and go on that journey.
Wow, that was inspiring, right? Delanda is like so many of us when we first start writing children's books. We're a parent who's looking for a book to give to our child and not able to find it anywhere. So tell me, is there a topic you've been thinking about starting? Hopefully today's episode will give you a reason to want to start. And if you would like to hear what Delanda had to say for the rest of this interview, you can catch it at the summit. She explains her journey and why she chose to self-publish rather than traditional publishing in that interview with me for the KidLit Indie Publishing Summit. I found it super interesting, especially since she has such an awesome topic that can speak to so many parents today. Catch the summit. It starts on Monday. You can hear Delanda as well as 14 other authors from all over the world sharing tips on writing and self-publishing children's books. Plus, you can do it all for free. How awesome, right? Get signed up for your ticket at KidLitIndiePubSummit.com. I've added the link to the post for the episode under the podcast tab at JourneyToKidLit.com, podcast episode number 16, in case you don't want to have to remember that URL. Well, that about does it for today's episode of the Journey to KidLit podcast. Thanks so much for joining me today. If you have a thought about today's episode or a suggestion for future ones, send me an email or reach out to me via Twitter. And if you liked what you heard today, be sure to leave a review, and while you're there, subscribe to be notified of new episodes. Until next time, happy writing!